There are a lot of parallels for Trump 2.0, let's say, with Modi 2.0. Let me point, of course, to the first big difference, which is obviously that here you have a break of 4 years with the Biden administration between Trump 1 and Trump 2. And we can talk about how that might make things a bit different, whether that brought in complacency from institutions or whether that gave time for folks to steal their defenses, let's say, a little bit. But on other fronts, you have a lot of things that you can compare to. The first Modi victory was seen by some as being more about the incumbent government that was there before rather than his political project entirely. There was a sense that the incoming government was not fully prepared to rule, just as Trump was seen in the same way, in that the bureaucracy was not entirely on their side. They had to learn to navigate the reins of power first before being able to really utilize them fully. And also just sharper rhetoric. Modi came to power for the second time in 2019 with a program and platform that was much more clearly anti-minority, anti-Muslim, and sort of demanding more fealty to his project than the first time around, which was more about everyone getting along together and taking on corruption. And clearly, Trump's second victory has much sharper, harsher rhetoric than the first time around. And so you have just in the scale of these two victories, there are lots of things to compare to, and and I'm happy to talk a little bit about. I don't know whether they're like models to follow so much as just the patterns that we saw with the second term.
I mean, I guess we could start with media, with sort of big media outlets, since we just brought up the Washington Post example. I think an added challenge for American media outlets is that the whole system, like we know the whole model is not working. Consumption of journalism is way down. And I think I said this last week that while last time you saw a big boost in subscriptions and in like CNN viewership, I don't know, because we've now been doing this for 8 years, I think people are just exhausted by the circus. And I don't know we'll be hanging on every tweet, every announcement, every wild twist and turn in the same way that they were back in 2017. Which is to say that I don't know that media outlets will have that extra support from subscribers or from viewers or from their audience as they try to report on, an administration that I think we can expect to be extremely hostile to the media.
Yeah, I think our big lesson over the period of Modi 2.0 was almost shifting gears a little bit. I was working at an independent newsroom in India at the time, and certainly the Modi government has also been extremely hostile to free press, and one with a much larger mandate in 2019, and certainly scared a lot of particularly independent media organizations. We like to talk of then going from a shift and thinking about your journalism as impact journalism, where you invest a lot in hoping that the things you cover will lead to quick or relatively proximate change, to just starting to see yourself as doing the important job of documenting thing, even if nobody's going to go and read it. And the utility of bringing this up now is, we learned, for listeners who followed the Indian elections through this podcast over the course of this year, Modi did not win as big this year as he did in 2019. And even though many of us in the journalism world had gotten quite fatigued and sort of believed, there was a strong sense of resistance and that kind of pushback in the first time around. And I'm sure this is something we'll see in the US, but just more fatigue in round two, thinking that like readers are going to check out, but also, this is now a cycle that no matter how much truth you throw at a subject, it doesn't stick. But yeah, we now have the utility of a bit of hindsight from India, where actually the things people have been talking about for years, and because they have been covered and reported on well, even without a presumption that they'll necessarily lead to an immediate impact from the judicial system or the executive or the legislature, they did eventually have impact. So thinking of just documenting. On the flip side, watching this as a citizen, it seems very familiar to me because in India, this happened more over the first term, where not just things like proprietors, congratulating the leader, so much as editors being replaced. In India, we saw a series of editors being changed as it was clear that Modi was going to be in power for a while, and the sort of management of news became much sharper. And so it's both familiar to me, but I would say one of the key things to take away, and this is not, at least from my end, this is not advice or analysis on the political side at all. It's for citizens and for institutions. It's to know that documentation and you putting your nose to the stone, I think, still matters.